Hello, you hellions. Welcome to the new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies.
That's quite an intro you just came up with there, man.
You little rascals. Oh, man. On this episode, we are going to be reviewing the new reboot, I guess, of Hellboy.
Now with 40% more violence.
40% more violence and 60% less budget. And the other ones weren't made with much of a budget. Oh, man. Yes, it did have more violence, didn't it, Dakota? Did it, though?
Yes, it did.
I feel like in one sense it did. In another sense, it just had a lot of cartoon blood. But there were some gruesome practical effects.
Are you talking about in the end when people were getting trampled on by the giant monsters?
Well, there is that. Yes. Yes. So this new Hellboy, we have a new studio owning the rights. We have the comic book creator Mike Mignola taking a little more of a creative. I wouldn't say he had full creative control, but a little bit more of say in how the story and movie went and look of it. It seems like he acts like on Twitter anyway. He did. And we have a new person playing Hellboy, David Harbour from Stranger Things fame, and a few other random supporting roles in the past before that you might know him from, but most people know him as the sheriff in Stranger Things. Kind of doing a younger Hellboy, but at the same time, he seems like a Hellboy who's been there, done that. I was also really confused about that because he says things like, "Oh, I remember when I had to go to purgatory and fight that." But at the same time, he seems like he's supposed to be like younger, and so I'm not sure what we're supposed to think about exactly his age and his years of mission. But at the same time, in this movie, you also get a little bit more of a hardened Professor Broom, more so than the John Hurt portrayed one of the past. This Professor Broom is really harsh, and so Hellboy probably has had a hard past in this version because he was given a gun at 10 years old.
Like all young boys should be.
And honestly, as someone from South Dakota, that isn't crazy. I think there's a lot of 10-year-olds around here who probably get a gun for their birthday. Oh, but I'm guessing Hellboy's gun was a little more dangerous.
Yeah, I feel like it was probably something that was probably automatic and fired some
shot
large...
very big bullets.
Yeah.
But when you have a fist that big, you can handle it. So here we are. This movie, even though it's this new introduction to Hellboy, just kind of kicks off. They don't worry about doing the whole, we're here, here's where he came from. You're just kind of in Hellboy's life a little bit. Did you think that was a good idea, Dakota? Dakota, did you like this movie? Let's start there.
I'm sorry. I'm just replaying the movie in my head, and oh man, there's just so much in this movie.
I was gonna say it's honestly hard to remember how this movie started because they did everything in this movie, but didn't have the budget to do anything that they did. That's what's so funny about it, is that this movie is full of all these big fantastical things, but they didn't have the time and budget to make it look real good. Except for David Harbour.
Yeah.
His makeup looked good. I thought he looked comfortable and like in the stuff he had to wear, and where I found myself not thinking of him as a guy wearing makeup. I don't know, were you the same? Did you think of him as a guy wearing makeup?
Yes, I did.
See, I didn't, and I think partially it's because he's not as recognizable of a person. Like Ron Perlman, I feel like I know his unique face so well that it was easier to kind of think that was Ron Perlman.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's just, when I think about this movie, it's just, they took a storyline from the comics and basically tried to adapt it to the big screen, and they threw all this other stuff in there.
Yeah, Yeah, and so kind of after you're introduced to Hellboy, it starts with Hellboy in Mexico, in Tijuana.
Good old TJ, yeah.
Good old TJ. And he's attempting to get a friend who's also an agent down there. But this agent seems like something's wrong with him, and he's being a luchador, which I thought was very strange that they did that. And
I figured amnesia. He just had amnesia or something.
Yeah, something, because basically you find out that his friend was turned into a vampire, which also means he can just transform into a giant bat.
I don't know.
Apparently. And he's trying to not kill his friend who wants to kill him. And he's saying, I know you're in there. And then he ends up murdering his friend in an attempt in self-defense, mostly. And so we're kind of introduced this. I mean, so from the get-go, we're understanding this is just a more hard movie, and you have more of a hardened Hellboy. And I think he's just kind of questioning the things he does and the things that people are telling him about what he is. Is he the bringer of the end of the world, or is he really is he saving it? What is he? Who is he, and why is he here? And should he even exist? Is kind of the Hellboy we're dealing with here. And he really just battles all these thoughts with just alcohol. For the most part.
As most men do, I guess.
I guess. And so, so from there, we go back, and then we're introduced to his dad. We realize that, like I said, Professor Broom, and this is a little more of a harsher adopted father who's pretty hard on his demon son.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the storyline ends up getting into is a really popular storyline from the comic, The Wild Hunt. Is how the Wild Hunt was portrayed in this movie how it is in the comics?
Very loosely. The kind of backstory is similar, with the witch. I struggle to pronounce her name. Was it Nimue?
Nimue?
Nimue? Okay.
Yeah, there's this Arthurian legend, I guess I forgot to bring up, because there's a lot going on in this movie.
Yeah.
Where our main baddie is this witch who is it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, defeated by Excalibur.
Yeah.
By King Arthur with Excalibur, but he can't really kill her. He just separates her into instead of the edges of the earth, just different parts of England, which I think he forgets that England's a small island. So that's really not that far apart. Like, we need to separate her all 100 miles apart that she is. Or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was olden days when most people...
That's true. That was a few days on horseback.
Back when in your average life you probably never went like more than 10 miles away from where you were born.
Yeah, so Hellboy, he gets brought into this secret club of these English gentlemen who are protecting secrets of England, but they're also ageless because they were blessed and or cursed to be ageless.
Yeah, I'm still
unclear.
I'm still not sure how that happened. Apparently the spirit was just capable of granting immortal life unto people.
There was just people. If there's something that you can think of that could happen in a fantasy movie, I bet it happened in this movie. Arthurian legend, check. Witch curses, check. Immortality, check.
Demon reproducing with the human,
check. A guy who can turn into an animal, check.
I was gonna say were-leopard.
Yeah, were-leopard, check.
Psychic. Don't forget the
psychic who can speak to the dead, check. I mean, it just everything.
Reanimated dead people.
That's true. Going to another dimension to talk to some weird person, check, because that happens in a lot of things too. In Baba Yaga, it's basically this other dimension.
Hellboy references he talked to the Egyptian god Osiris.
Yes, and that he met Ra.
Yeah. So apparently those guys are a thing in this universe.
Yeah,
like
so there you go. And again, in fantasy, Egyptians are always somehow brought up, so check. Everything was happening, and yet nothing.
There was actually knights in this movie, too.
There were knights.
Yeah.
There were knights. There were witches. There were vampires.
I'm surprised we didn't see the Lady of the Lake in this. I'm surprised she didn't rise up and try to reclaim
Well,
Excalibur.
I think it's because there were enough ladies in this movie without worrying about adding another lady. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so what a lot of people seem to like about the Guillermo del Toro, say it all fancy like him, movies, is that he kind of gave them like this kind of style. You know, how did you feel about how this movie was?
Oh, man. That's one thing I think this movie was kind of lacking in is style.
I think it was trying to go for a style, but it was a style that feels like so many other movies.
I think it was that early 2000s action movie style.
Yeah, where you cut to a scene and it's playing some popular song as you're showing where you're at on the screen.
Yeah.
They did that a lot, and I'm just like, okay, that must be what Neil Marshall's going for a style. But when I think about Neil Marshall, what else has he really done that really is... I mean, he did, what was that movie that got him on the map? The Descent? Was that him? Did he do that one?
I want to say yes, but I can't be sure.
He was kind of this horror movie guy. Is kind of what, and then didn't he do some Game of Thrones or something?
Man, I really don't know.
Because it seems like when they were talking about his credentials coming into directing this, it was he started in horror and then he did Game of Thrones or something, did a few episodes of Game of Thrones or something like that.
Huh.
And so maybe that's where he liked the idea of Arthurian legend, since Game of Thrones had swords and armor, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it was and I will say, for as cheesy as maybe you think the Ron Perlman Hellboys are, they did have this style to them where it just it felt like the real world, at the same time was this is fantasy, whereas this movie, it was it would be jarring. It would go from you're in a real world place, but then all of a sudden it would just be I don't know, it's just kind of all over the map. It's hard to tell what you were. There were also a lot of times where I feel they were yeah, we can do whatever we want now that we're R.
Yeah.
I mean, and not in anything too weird, but just I feel there was a couple places where Professor Broom's language was out of place. Would he have really said it like that? And it was oh, we can do that now though, or just the way they did a lot of things. And I feel that's the one thing this director was comfortable doing, was having a lot of cartoon blood spray at the screen.
Yeah.
Seemed like he enjoys that. But again, he didn't even do that with much style. It just happened. I don't know. Was this movie good?
I'm actually leaning towards no, it was not.
I don't think it was. And I don't know. It's not I don't think I ever thought this movie would be good, but I thought it would at least be entertaining.
Here's the thing. There's, the start of Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy movie was actually pretty cool. You had the Nazis on that. I think it was some Scottish island, and they're doing the ritual.
Yep.
There's
Rasputin's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's basically that same scene in this movie, but it's done on a TV budget.
Yeah.
And Rasputin looked like they hired some guy that does softcore porn. That's the vibe I got.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird because it was instead of having this big Stonehenge looking thing, it was there's just this little table or something, and we'll just cut to this and this, and somebody with a video camera. We're good.
You had some weird machines that looked like they could have been from a 1950s movie, just kind of in the background, and
then the way that I think the director thought he was giving it a cool stylistic flair was that one of the Nazis is wearing like 3D glasses, basically, the red blue.
yeah, it's and then Cronin, who was in a character that was in the first one, he had the cool like kind of blades, and he did the kind of like crawling on walls. I think he was supposed to be referenced in that
They showed
scene.
like a gas mask wearing dude that seemed to look a lot like that character. Yeah, I don't know. It was really weirdly. They would have been better off probably just not even having that, because I feel like anyone who would be at this movie is probably people who have seen the other Hellboys. It would just be like, ooh, 2003 did this better.
Yeah, I think the saving grace of that whole scene is Thomas Hayden Church. I'm just throwing that out there.
What was up with that?
No,
That was it. I totally forgot about how random that was. And I think the thing is we're supposed to take Thomas Hayden Church's character, not necessarily like seriously, but I wanted to just laugh at how stupid it was. How he jumps down and he's like, let me mark you so that you know who. But he's talking like Lyle from George of the Jungle, like his character from George of the Jungle. And it's like, what is happening? He was like Captain America.
yeah.
Like they were trying to make him. He seemed like a really bad knockoff of Captain America who had like a lobster claw symbol. Is he from the comics?
I've never heard of him before.
I don't know. Someone I felt really bad for though in this movie is Daniel Dae Kim.
Why?
Because I like him, and I feel like he just. I feel like he was this person who was hired on because of the whole whitewashing incident. Because it was originally supposed to be Ed Skrein, I think, was supposed to be that role.
Yeah, I think it was his. Sorry, I'm kind of confusing everything. Apparently, he was supposed to have a subplot though, where it wasn't the actual agent. You find out he was an imposter, like he had killed the agent that was kind of sent to help Hellboy, and kind of assumed his identity, but he's supposed to have been a spy for like the other side, basically.
Oh, okay.
And people found out that he was playing like this Asian character, or this character with an Asian name. People just like freaked out.
Yeah. So anyway, everyone was all excited because like, oh, they got this Asian to play it, and it's Daniel Dae Kim, and people like him from things. But he got stuck in this really garbage movie.
Wow, we've gone to.
I also feel bad for David Harbour because I feel like he really gained a lot of steam from Stranger Things. People noticing him, knowing who he is now, and then this is kind of his first kind of big movie break. And now that everybody's first big movie has to be great, I mean, George Clooney was in the worst Batman movie, and he still made a career after that. Although you could argue that George Clooney's not as great of an actor as everybody makes him out to be, which I'm willing to fight that fight. But anyway, he still had a successful career after a really bum Batman movie.
You're just going to pack all that and then just move on, huh?
Yeah, we'll just pack that back up. But, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think this movie is ever going to be great. And I think we're trying to make it in a way where they're like, we know this movie isn't going to be great, but we're not going to give you what the critics are telling you want, or the film snobs tell you what. We're going to give you the movie that just a fantasy Hellboy fan wants. But if this is what that means, no thank you. I guess.
Wow.
I don't know. There was very few things in this movie that I liked. I'm trying to think. I know they're there. Kind of the opening stuff. I guess how the movie started, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like how this movie's starting. But then by the time we get to the giant hunting, I'm just like, I don't know.
The giant fight was cool. I'll give this movie
giant
that.
fight. The giant fight. That would be a highlight. That was pretty fun. Where these three giants are just beating Hellboy across this field, and he just is finding everything he can to bring down these three giants, and that was fun. I'll give that scene.
The Baba Yaga scene was both terrifying and interesting at the same time, because that almost seemed like it was something that Guillermo del Toro had come up with.
Yeah, he would. Baba Yaga still looked too human, though, to be something Guillermo del Toro would have come up with. His stuff always looks more monster. That was a character where I was like, it was so noticeably someone in makeup that it wasn't even really that creepy to me.
Yeah, but there's a kind of that interesting way she moves around, and then...
Yeah, kind of the whole Reagan walk stuff or something, like The Exorcist.
Yeah, and then I thought it got into like real horror movie territory when you find out she's like eating children. It's like, oh, God.
Well, and that's the history of that character, right?
I don't know if she does eat children.
That's kind of the history of a lot of characters. I mean, if you think about Hansel and Gretel.
Oh, the witch.
I mean, she wanted to stick those kids in the oven. So really, I guess that's kind of just a thing, huh? In fairy tale stuff.
I guess
we could check that off. A witch eating children. Because that's a thing in fantasy.
No gingerbread house in this movie, though, folks.
No
Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a Hellboy.
I will give it this. I was actually kind of surprised by Mila Jovovich's performance in this.
That she was good?
Yeah, she was decent. Because I don't think she's ever played like a villain before.
I feel like, yeah, in some ways it was good. Just because I feel like a lot of times when someone has a role like that, they chew the scenery so much that it's just ridiculous. Like, she wasn't just flailing her body all weird and screaming everything. Like some people have a tendency to do when they have roles like that. But that I feel like she was really trying to, kind of be that evil, witchy presence without being so, like, weirdly over the top. Like what happened, like that guy I always think of the Dracula from the Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's just so over the top in that movie, it's just distracting. Like, that guy was just chewing up the scenery. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, and she's another one who, like, she was my first clue this movie wasn't going to be good, if I'm going to be honest, because has she ever been in, like, an actual good movie? I know people say Fifth Element.
Wow, okay.
But it's like, what? Fifth Element's like, whatever. It's a whatever movie. Has she been in anything else? Even if I give you Fifth Element, everything else she's been in, she's just been...
The first Resident Evil movie I always thought was really decent. The CGI hasn't aged.
Is it, though?
It's decent. It's not,
when I see her, all I think of is straight to DVD.
Ouch.
I think she did those for a while.
I'm trying to think of what I saw her in last, and I'm just drawing a blank.
Yep, kind of like how she acts.
Wow.
But she was okay in this. She did make what she had in this work. But I think it's just because there wasn't a whole lot of this movie that worked. So maybe that helped. This movie really had nothing to lose, and yet it still figured out how to lose it.
Ow! I guess we're not pulling any punches now.
I'm just trying to think of anything terrible I could say about it.
For me, it was just, oh God. I just knew, like, at the start of this movie, I had a bad feeling. Maybe it was the crappy CGI looking characters, or the fact that they just threw in like, this is, I don't know if it's me or what, but people keep like throwing the Arthurian legend and stuff.
Yeah, it's like, it's in everything now.
The last one of the last Transformers movies had King Arthur and Merlin, and it's like, What? Why?
I don't
What's
know.
going on here?
You know what I was just realizing is that in Stranger Things, the Demogorgon's CGI, and it looks better than the CGI in this movie. How does that work?
Oh man.
Oh man. Of course, it might have to do with how all the credits were Yugoslav Hergoslav and Higoflag Zavenglav. That was like all the credits were names like that, and I'm just like,
I don't know if that's
this is barely an American movie.
what Steven is referencing is the fact there were a lot of Russians that worked on this.
I'm just saying, vodka was drunk. Oh man! All right, so
You know, this movie kind of reminds me of just so many other like movies that were terrible. You bringing up you bringing up Van Helsing is like opening the floodgates. I'm thinking
talk about rough CGI.
John Carter. This movie reminds me of John Carter.
You know, John Carter is an interesting mess, though. I would watch that 100 times over.
Valerian's
a hot mess. Guess who did that movie? The Fifth Element guy.
Yeah, Luc Besson, man.
Oh man.
See, I didn't like Lucy, but everyone loved Lucy, and I don't know why.
I love Lucy.
That's completely unrelated.
Totally different though. Okay, so out of 5 Excaliburs,
Oh wow.
how many Excaliburs would you give Hellboy?
See, that's the problem. I don't even want to give this one Excalibur because that's an Excalibur.
Well, I mean, but it was a movie. We can all admit that this was a movie. And so maybe just for being a movie, it deserves one Excalibur.
I will give it 1 then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 1. I'll never watch this again.
You know, the thing is, you can't even give this movie an A for effort. Like that's what I feel.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out. You know, because when I realized, I'm like, okay, this movie is just everywhere. What's going on? And that's what the thing I was trying to do is like I was trying to figure out. And I feel like the only thing in this movie you could give that seemed like there was effort put was maybe David Harbour.
Yeah,
because he was legitimately excited to come in and take on this role and be that character, and I feel like no one else was willing to give it the effort he was.
Yeah, it's just
I think and Neil Marshall, I think why do they keep? He's another director. Like, why does he keep getting movies?
I think it's because maybe Kevin Smith kind of a while ago said the whole thing. You're technically a successful director if you make back the money your movie costs to get made and a little bit extra.
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe he's that guy. He just
yeah. I mean, that's how Michael Bay kept getting movies. He always
yeah.
made money back.
Except when I think the last Transformers movie was his first bomb ever, and that's probably why he doesn't really have anything.
Yeah,
he's probably taking some me time to reflect and.
No, he's just looking in a mirror. That's all he's doing. Oh man. Well, yeah. So we each pretty solidly give this a 1 Excalibur out of 5. Should you check it out? Even is it something for the curious mind to even put their eyes on? No. No. I would say maybe. Except that there's 2 other Hellboys that you can go put your curious minds on. that even with the qualms you may have with them, they're way more entertaining than this movie. Because honestly, you know, a lot of people have trouble with Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. I think that movie's just a ton of fun, and I love the troll market and all that, just ridiculous creatures and just goofy stuff. You know, but there's just anything that was meant to be goofy, and this one is just not, or whatever it was meant to be. I don't know if this movie's meant to be creepy. I don't know. It was.
You know, I'm going to throw this out there just because I feel like I got to stir the pot one last time.
Okay.
This movie reminds me a lot of kind of how it was put together and the storyline, it kind of seems like it was made by the people that make the Fast and the Furious movies.
Wait, okay, you need to elaborate on this. In what way?
Okay, well, except there's no chemistry in this movie between people. That's the only thing the Fast and the Furious movies have going for them. Like you got that main team and
The family.
Yeah, you got the interactions that propels movie, but you got really bad CGI. You got like insane stunts that make no sense.
Yeah, that defy physics and explanation. Yeah,
Hey, I'm gonna drive this car out of this window into the next building over, and it's just like, what?
Yeah, you might be onto something. Because when you think about this movie, it was like, Hellboy. You didn't feel anything between him and his dad. Yeah, it was just like nobody felt like they cared about anybody else. So yeah, that is true. So there is that.
Daniel Dae Kim, I don't know. It's like, I think he was just there to collect a paycheck. I mean,
I think he was. Yeah, because it could have been an interesting character, but apparently he maybe just doesn't know what to do, or maybe just had an incompetent director. I don't know. Everything just was against this movie. That being said, I think we'll just bring this episode to a close. If you're still going to go to Hellboy, congratulations. I guess way to give a few more bucks to this movie, I guess. Lionsgate's going to need it because, man, they have a few franchises now that are just not making bank for them anymore.
Oh man, I feel it's a shame that a big movie studio like Warner Brothers wouldn't pick something up like this. Because I feel like it would have been much better done.
Well, let's see, who did the second one? Universal? I'm trying to remember who. Oh, because the first one was Columbia, and then they sold it to what was the second one? It was like Universal. I think it was Universal and Legendary or something. Okay. Were in on the second one. And it just keeps getting passed around because everybody's like, I don't know what to do. Or maybe it was Warner Brothers was the second one.
I'll have to look that up, yeah.
It was Warner and Legendary, I think, is who the second one was.
Okay, that would make more sense because for a while there, Legendary was only working with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I think it was Warner and Legendary. And then Legendary was the one I think who had more meat on the bone for it. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, there's Hellboy. We hope you will check us out on all the places we are. We're on Facebook. We'll start putting some more updates on there again. It's just good to be back doing these again. Even sometimes it's fun to just talk about awful movies, and this fit the bill.
Oh man.
Yeah, so we hope you like us on there and you subscribe to us in all those subscription-y places like YouTube or iTunes or any place you listen to your podcast. We'd really appreciate that. And any other things you want to throw at us, comments, feedback, ideas of what you'd like to hear us talk about, we're always open to that kind of thing. Because if you're not familiar with what we do on this show, we do anything. It's really random. We just talk movies. It can be old movies, new movies, directors, actors, anything. We love it all. So, yeah. So it's great to bring these to you. I actually honestly enjoyed talking about this movie, even though it was awful. So, always fun. Always good to be here with you, Dakota. But with that, I think we'll bring this to a close. This is Steven.
This is Dakota.
And we'll see you later.